do the record. Okay, so when you learn math, the first thing in elementary school, the elementary school elementary math is called arithmetic. That means we are doing addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and on numbers, mostly on whole numbers or counting numbers. And we do get into like decimals and fractions and all of that, but we always dealing with numbers. Then, then we go up there. We're going to learn about algebra. That's it. Then also we learn geometry. Sometimes people learn geometry first, sometimes before the algebra, sometimes algebra before the geometry. Or in most schools right now uh, is a sandwich. So you got algebra one, then you go geometry, then you go algebra two. So you get, and then after that, you're going to learn um pre-cal, then calculus. So even though they are all calculus, they are all math, but they are different branches of math. It's kind of like saying um, English and French, they're all languages, but they are different. They are languages, but they're different. So that means they have different vocabulary, they have different grammars. Well, grammar is more or less the same, but there's difference there. So um, the algebra is quite different from geometry because their origin is different. Geometry is the oldest branch of math. It's more than 2,000 years ago, and it's really started in Greece. And algebra is much later. It's about 1,000 years ago. And actually, this came from originated in India. From India, went to the Arabs. Then from the Arabs, they went to West Europe. Okay, so that's why you'll see that we have different. We we have probably have the same thing in both algebra and geometry, but we have different names for that. So the first thing is we are going to the difference. Like in algebra, we say equal or equality. Now in geometry, we say congruency or congruent or congruency. It means equal, but we are using different vocabulary now. And also you see um, angles. We talk about acute angles, obtuse angles, and those actually came from Greece. That's why you have uh, 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 in geometry kinds sounds a little bit strange, but that's because the origins is from Greece. Okay, so the basics. Let's go back to the basics. The basics is um, when we dealing with geometry. Now we start with actually one point. One point is a concept because they had no dimension. But from 2 points, we can have a line. And the line has no beginning and no end. And just keep going on both sides forever. And we also have something called ray, which is has a beginning but no end. And if you want to write this one, normally we write this as A, B, and put something like that. And for the ray, this is the ray, A, B, go like that. And we also could have so-called line segment. That means it has start point, has end point, and the length is definite. So we write AB. That's called a line segment. Good. Are we good here so far? If we're good, could type plus. Okay. So with the line, then we know this is called 2 points defining a line because you only have one line goes through 2 points. And then if we have more than just, we have 2 lines go like this, that forms a plane. And then if we have, this is a 2-dimension. Then if we could also have 3-dimension, which is a space, that 3-dimension. So here in 2D, we talk about areas and parameters. On 3D, we talk about volumes. So that's pretty much where we're going to start. Start in geometry is we actually first focus on the 2D geometric shapes, and then we learn a little bit about 3D. That's when we're dealing with volumes. Andre, have you done any 3D printing? Hello? Oh, okay. And is Barry's son, Josiah, still with you guys? Okay. Uh, all right. So we have the lines. So with lines, then we have angle because 2 lines form an angle. And this is called acute. Acute just means thin. Okay. Acute. And then when we have 90 degrees, that's called right. This is right angle. And if something bigger than 90 degrees, we call that um, obtuse. You see this is really a Greek word. And then if it's bigger than, it's a straight line, 180, that's called straight angle because we have a straight line. And then if something is bigger than 180, but less than 330, this is called reflex angle. So we basically have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kinds of angles. Uh, Actually, I decided not to do populations, at least not in the beginning. Okay, because if I do populations in the beginning, that's people may find it's pretty dry. What what's your opinion on this, Ethan? Well, what we'll do is actually we're doing some practical geometry. Okay, and you'll see we're talking about angles, we're talking about congruencies. Okay,
So,
congruency, similarities,
okay.
areas, and parameters. So it's kind of similar to what you learn in school. But um, I'll see. I think I still wants to talk about propositions, but I decided to do that a bit later. So to have so that you have some understanding before we get in there, because propositions actually is very important, and that actually is what um, we learn geometry for, is to learn how to prove something that is true. Okay, are we,
How many prepositions are there?
what's that?
How many prepositions?
Hundreds,
Okay.
hundreds. But we're going to focus on main ones. Good. All right. Are we good here so far? Okay, very good. So now we're going to looking at some basic shapes. Now the two basic shapes are uh, quadrilateral. Quad, that means four side. Lateral just means a line, a side. Quadrilaterals and triangles. Triangles. Okay, quadrilaterals just any thing with four sides. Could be this, and could be this, and the most strange one is this. This also a quadrilateral. Okay, look like an arrow, but if you look, we got four sides. And then we have triangles. Triangles, of course, is we have three angles. That's why it means tri. Tri means three. So three angles, and could have different types, all kinds. As long as we have three sides, then of course we have three angles. So we got quadrilaterals and triangles. So we're going to study um, like on geometry in school. You can learn a lot about them. Um, so we're first going to say what types of quadrilaterals we have. And the simplest one is called a square. Square, that means all four sides are congruent, but the angles, they are all right angles. And that's where we see square. And this is actually what we use to do measurement. We're talking about square feet, square inch, square meter, or square mile. Is exactly those shape. And then we have something called rectangles. That's all right angles, but one side, this two pairs. Now, one pair, the length is different from the other pair. So we have square, then we have rectangle, and then we have something called parallelogram. It's kind of like the rectangle get squashed. Okay, Ethan,
Am I allowed to add something?
add something? No, no.
So squares, rectangles, and parallelograms all have two pairs of parallel lines.
Right. So a square actually is a parallelogram, and a square is also a rectangle, but just special case. So the parallelogram just means we got these two corresponding lines are parallel and have the same and congruent, and this side are parallel and also congruent. So it kind of like the rectangle, you got kind of push into, because those are not, this is bigger, this is acute angle, and this is a, sorry, this is a obtuse angle, this is a acute angle. It's kind of like you if you make a rectangle, if you build something in rectangle, you can easily make that into a parallelogram. um, okay, and we also have um, something like this. And do you guys remember what's called? We have a parallel line, but they are not congruent. Do you guys remember? Trapezoid. Very good. And now we're going to have something um, special is this. Very good. Rhombus. Yeah, also some people call diamond. And we also have something like this. Those are, those are congruent. And here, top are congruent, bottom is also congruent. Very good. This is called kite, just like a kite. And so that's basically the 6 special kind of record quadrilaterals. Of course, you get some weird shape like this. You could have that. That's quadrilateral too. Or you could have something uh, like this. Well, make that better, like this. So those are quadrilaterals, but they are kind of special.
Dr. Payne, for
Yes.
those for those quadrilaterals with like that aren't classified into any of them, what are they called?
It's just called quadrilaterals.
Okay.
And probably you can call that irregular or odd shaped quadrilaterals. Okay. But our study is focused on those 6, because those has ways for us uh, to measure the area of those. Okay. So now we get into triangles. Now triangles we have this, we see this all the time. Oh, why is a kite called kite? Because that's the shape of a kite.
Wait, did the thing kite, like the thing you fly up in the air, come first, or the shaped kite come first?
I don't know which one came from first. That's good idea. Good question. Maybe I should well, you can Google it. But anyway, like now we see the kite, the shape is just basically the kite we fly. That kind of general shape. Of course, you can have different shapes now when you're doing a kite, but the general shape is like that. The fundamental or kind of a basic shape. And okay, so this is a special kind of triangle, and that's called the right triangle because it have a right angle. And then we have now 2 sides are congruent. And this is kind of hard to say. Okay, right. I saw said these. I hope I got it right. Probably I misspelled something, but it's called isosceles. Just like two legs are congruent. And of course, we only have all sides are congruent, and this is called this is isosceles triangle. Yep, ISOSCO. I did SCE, so I misspelled that. Okay, ISOSCELES. Yep. And do you guys remember what it's called?
It's called an equilateral triangle.
Right. Equal just means the same. Equilateral. Lateral, this means the side. Equilateral triangle. And then we also have something which uh, all 3 sides are different.
Scalene triangle.
Yeah, scalene.
And then there's also acute triangle and obtuse triangle.
Right. So you got obtuse triangle, and this is obtuse. This side is bigger than 90. That's obtuse triangle. And you also got acute triangle. That means all sides are less than 90. Oh, this is actually not. Let me go back a little bit. I hope, okay. Ah, I cannot draw this. Okay, that's a acute triangle. And of course, if so, triangle wise, we have those 6: acute triangle, obtuse triangle, scalene, equilateral, isosceles, and right triangle. Good. Okay. So that's what we have for today. So basically, it's a kind of a review and also talking about the basic shapes. Then next, uh, in next class, we are going to looking at um, triangles. Triangles, the different properties of triangles. Okay, and from that, then we're going to looking at quadrilaterals, and from quadrilaterals, we're going to looking at uh, higher order uh, other kind of shapes. Yes, Ethan?
Yeah. So I'd like to add something really quick. So triangles can also be classified in like more than one. For example, you can have like um a isosceles obtuse triangle.
Right.
Like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So like this one, this actually is acute equilateral. And equilateral is always acute. Isosceles triangle can be acute or can be obtuse. Good. Okay. So that's it for today. Okay. I'll see you next week.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye.